Good morning to all Dominicans and friends of Dominica. As you're aware, our country is currently facing an increase in COVID-19 cases. As indicated by the Minister of Health last night, it is well proven that to limit transmission and the spread of COVID-19, there must be limited movement within the public. This morning, I am here to brief you on the Emergency Powers Curfew Order 2021, SRO number 19, which was made by the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica under Section 3 of the Emergency Powers Act, Chapter 1502 of the 2017 Revised Laws of Dominica. This order was gazetted on the 3rd of August 2021. This order applies to the entire state of Dominica. This means that the provisions of the order are not limited to any one area. Everyone in every part of Dominica is subject to the measures of the order. Curfew. Section 4 of the order imposes a curfew throughout Dominica from 6 p.m. on the 3rd day of August to 5 a.m. on the 10th day of August 2021. A person shall not be out in a public place between the hours of 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Monday to Friday. A person shall not be out in a public place between the hours of 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday to Friday, except to provide or access essential services. Unless a person is an essential worker as defined in the order or has a written authorization from the Commissioner of Police, a person shall not be in a public place from 5 p.m. on Saturday to 5 a.m. on Monday. Many people have asked and requested further clarity on what is an essential service and who is an essential worker. For the purposes of the order, essential service includes air traffic, including Met, telecommunication, security, fire and ambulance services connected with airports, fire and ambulance, prison or police service, medical, health, hospital, infirmary or nursing home services, telecommunication or broadcasting services, water, electricity or sanitation services, banking business services, credit union business services, grocery, agricultural, fisheries or pharmaceutical services, immigration, custom or postal services, services connected with the House of Assembly, services connected with the loading and unloading of ships and with the storage and delivery of goods at or from a dock, wharf or warehouse operated in connection with the dock or wharf, services connected with the loading, distribution, transportation or retail of petroleum fuel, liquefied natural gas or any renewable energy source, public services connected with the payment of salaries, pensions, and other benefits in government departments, agencies, statutory bodies, and arm's-length bodies. Services connected with the judiciary, including the attendance of court of attorneys. Services connected with essential government functions as directed by the Secretary to the Cabinet. Airport, seaport, and civil aviation services, fresh produce markets. An essential worker includes officers of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, the Dominica State Prison, members of the judiciary, the Department of Social Services, the Department of Environmental Health Services, the Custom and Excise Division, the Accountant General's Division, the Inland Revenue Division, waste disposal and sanitation companies, any hospital or health care, medical, residential care establishment or facility, the Dominica Air and Seaports Authority, essential officers of any water, electricity, or other sector encompassing the provision of electronic communication, including print and electronic media. Any public officer or category of public officer as directed by the Secretary to the Cabinet who is in a public place for the purposes of work. There are some exemptions to this section of the Act. Section 5 of the order exempts a person from the prohibition of being in a public place during the period of a curfew if, as the Minister said last night, a person is a holder of a written authorization from the Commissioner of Police, a person is in a public place for the following purposes: traveling to or from work as a service provider or essential worker, seeking urgent medical care, shopping for necessities, conducting a banking transaction, caring for a family member, pet or livestock, engaging in construction and manufacturing, traveling to or from the airport. Further to this, the essential services that are permitted to open between the hours of 6 a.m. to 4 a.m. Monday to Friday are as follows: banks, credit unions, and money services businesses, wholesale or retail grocery stores, village shops, supermarkets, mini-marts, and commercial bakeries, petrol stations, and pharmacies. It is important to note that all essential workers shall at all times carry identification. Such identification must be produced on demand to the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. Every non-essential business shall remain closed except for the following businesses: hardware stores and businesses that provide products to the construction industry may open between 6 a.m. and 4 a.m. Hotels, including hotels, are allowed to be open. However, spas, gyms, discotheques, and restaurants therein, other than providing for takeaway, meals, or room service. Commercial courier flights, drive-through or takeaway food vendors from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., businesses providing security services, commercial ports and related businesses from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., subject to variation by the Dominica Air and Seaports Authority, construction projects and manufacturing plants. Motor buses, hiring cars, and taxis may also operate between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. So buses, public transportation is allowed to operate between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. Therefore, I must say that any business that is not listed in the order is not approved to open during this time. To ensure the safety of all workers, every business that is permitted to open must, according to the order, ensure on-site compliance with the following: hand sanitization of all workers and persons upon entry into the business site, maintenance of sanitized mess areas, sanitization of washrooms on a continuous 60-minute cycle. So far as reasonable practicable, maintenance of social distancing of a minimum of 2 meters at all times, and also face masks must be provided for each worker. The order makes it categorically clear that all bars and nightclubs shall be closed during the period, and there shall be no consumption of alcohol in or on the vicinity of any shop, grocery store, supermarket, or any public place. Again, businesses or establishments must ensure that all customers and staff maintain physical distancing of no less than 6 feet in or outside their business. Businesses and establishments must also determine the number of persons that are to be permitted in the establishment at any one time by permitting one person for every 30 square feet of store space. Within 24 hours of the order, and this is something that was done previously, distance markers must be placed 6 feet apart, indicating where each customer must stand at the checkout points. Distance markers must also be placed outside, indicating where customers must stand while waiting to enter the establishment. All cashiers, and as we said before, all employees must be provided with a face mask, and hygiene practices should be exercised within the workplace. According to Section 6 of the order, all other businesses and offices may continue their operations by allowing their employees to work remotely from home, utilizing virtual means, unless they are permitted to work under Section 8 or are essential workers. And we have already described the list of essential workers. With regard to the public service, Section 7 of the order specifically addresses the public service, statutory bodies, state-owned enterprises, and courts. Subject to subsection 2, which outlines the essential workers within the public service that I have listed earlier, all members of the public service shall work remotely from home, except as otherwise directed by the Secretary to the Cabinet. Where the Secretary to the Cabinet directs that specific public officers attend work, government will take reasonable steps to comply with the physical distancing protocols in accordance with the order. Subject to Section 8, all employees of statutory bodies and state-owned businesses shall work remotely from home unless otherwise or except as otherwise directed by the chairperson of the board, the general manager, or chief executive officer. These agencies are also expected to take reasonable steps to comply with the physical distancing protocols in accordance with Section 9. With regard to the court, subject to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Practice Direction number 3 of 2020 and any other such relevant practice direction which may be given, the court shall remain accessible and shall adhere to all physical distancing protocol. In this section, the court refers specifically to the Magistrates Court and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. With regard to religious instruction, all religious places of instruction or worship shall remain closed to the general public other than for a wedding or funeral which complies with Section 11. Religious institutions are free to conduct their functions and events via electronic and virtual means. From the start of this pandemic, places of worship have fully embraced virtual means to reach the public, and we have full confidence that they will continue to do so. With regard to social activity, Section 11 of the order stipulates that a person shall not attend a private party which includes any person from outside the immediate household of the occupant, a recreational or competitive sporting event, group tours, any social event, any meeting of a fraternal society, private or social club, or civic association or organization. A funeral, except 10 members of the family, immediate family, and at least one officiant and essential mortuary staff. A wedding which hosts more than 5 persons other than the bridegroom, official witnesses, and marriage officer. So these are the restrictions on social activity in Section 11 of the order. With regard to public transportation, a person shall not offer for hire or seek to travel on any motor omnibus unless there is or would be not more than 3 persons per row in the bus. Again, not more than 3 persons per public bus. Any hiring car or taxi should have no more than 2 persons per row in the vehicle. It is important to remember that the drivers of the buses or the cars shall sanitize the hands of each passenger before they enter the vehicle. Also, they are urged, you are required to ensure that all passengers wear a face mask or covering of nose and mouth with cloth shield. Passengers should be required to maintain respiratory etiquette at all times, and you are advised to keep the windows of the vehicle open as much as possible. There are some restrictions on visitation in the order. A person shall not visit or be permitted to visit any place of quarantine or isolation station. No visits to quarantine or isolation stations. No visits to any patient in a hospital or residential care establishment or facility, including an infirmary or nursing home, and no visits to detainees in a prison. Finally, on the order, anyone who wishes to obtain a permit referred to in Section 4 may make a written application to the Commissioner of Police. A person who applies for written authorization shall provide to the Commissioner of Police all of your details, the purpose for requesting to be out of doors in contravention of this order, name, address, personal telephone number, and other details. The public is reminded that anyone who contravenes or fails to comply with this order is guilty of an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $5,000 and to imprisonment for 12 months. We are once again appealing to the general public to abide by these measures in the interest of your safety, that of your family and friends, and all of Dominica. We have done it successfully in the past, and I am confident that we can do it again. In light of the curfew order and the need to restrict the movement of people, a decision has been taken to suspend all non-essential public services at the government headquarters and financial center and various government offices. Visits to government offices are to be by appointment only. The public is advised that special arrangements will be made for the provision of urgent services. We are also encouraging the public to make use of the digital access to government services. All forms for government services are available on the Government of Dominica website. Also, forms are available on the ground floor of the government headquarters. I wish to remind the public also that government services can be paid for online via the new e-payment portal. Application forms for various services can be securely dropped off at the post office location on the first floor of the documentation center on the grounds of the government headquarters. More information will be provided throughout the course of today via all forms of media on how to access public services during this time. With regard to the work from home order, permanent secretaries will give specific directives on the work to be completed by officers while working from home. Online platforms for meetings and communication are already available to staff. We urge all public officers to be productive during this time. Public officers across the island have the capacity to assist in the monitoring and enforcement of COVID protocols across the island. The teams of officers, particularly those in the districts, are encouraged to use their contacts and influence in the community to help fight COVID-19. Let me take this opportunity to thank all of our highly committed public officers across the public service who continue to show their dedication to our country through their selfless service. Our frontline workers who have been battling this pandemic for over a year require our full support and prayers as they continue this battle. We can show our appreciation to our public officers for their tireless efforts simply by following the measures that have been put in place for all of our safety. I also wish to thank the Committee of Permanent Secretaries, including the Financial Secretary and the Chief Personnel Officer, for their coordination and support during this crisis. All heads of department and all other public officers who continue to ensure the operations of government, and all of those who have been redeployed to assist the Ministry of Health, I applaud you. I also want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and the Cabinet for the leadership and support to public officers during this time. To the business community and the general public who supports and facilitates our frontline workers, I also applaud you. Finally, I am appealing to all public officers to follow the health protocols. If you feel you have been exposed or you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, get tested. And most importantly, get vaccinated. All of these are very important for the safety of yourself and your entire workplace, your friends, your family, and all of Dominica. Again, thank you very much to all of our public officers. Thank you very much to the general public for following these measures, and let us continue to support each other as we battle COVID-19. Thank you.